It's feeling 24/7 over here as we continue to sail forward through icebergs and blue skies with sun, and here in the external world, it's kind of a combination of cloud and sun as well. Your weather report from Berlin, Germany, Artist Journal, February 16th, 2024. Broadcasting from the ship in my mind where I have an editor's desk, and here we sit, my friends, you and me, one more time, capping it off. It is Friday. Hallelujah. A true, deep hallelujah. And welcome back. So, an absolute ton to get through today. There were so many works I could have started with as well. And again, it's only been 48 hours since the last show. Isn't that interesting? And it recalls a conversation I was having with my new friend Arnaud over coffee yesterday. And it was a very interesting, a common kind of response I get. I brought this up in the space with Unknown Collector last night. A common response I get to this show is kind of it's interesting, but I have no idea what's going on. This sort of thing. And it really just reminds, it's a stark reminder that what has become normal for a lot of us in this scene as far as aesthetic understanding of a certain style of working and doing art is not necessarily, as easy as it might sound. And I was bringing up just finally here, since one could argue this is kind of like pixel art, I was bringing up how, and I've brought this up before, how when I started this show and I started bringing in pixel art, that was a big decision for me. Like, I was almost to a certain degree, do I want to go there? And, now it would have been absolute foolishness not to show pixel art. But I say that as a way of illustrating how the external world outside of, a fairly large international bubble, which is why I went with this, actually. The Year of the Dragon here by Sabato. It is Chinese New Year's. I think that goes for a week or two. I should know more about it. It's happening now, as I understand. I should celebrate that this weekend. But all to say, it's easy for us to forget that people who are not, speaking our language, our visual language, it's easy for us to forget that they might not really, that this is not as accessible as it might seem, in the same way as me speaking to you. I just assume that you understand what I'm saying, but maybe some of you are in different languages, and I know there are, and you have to have the translator and everything. So all to say, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? And yeah, let's just leave that one there, because there's literally, there's too many tabs to go through here. And we have just so many beautiful works to go through. So let's begin. This is Sabato. This is on Zora, which is a layer 2 on Ethereum. And almost as I have to remind myself that there are constantly new viewers here too, that I have to make sure they understand what I'm talking about. So it's a layer 2 on Ethereum, Zora, a marketplace. And here we're using Deluxe Paint 4, what I like to call a retro tool, so which is a classic glitch art technique to use retro tools, or at least you'll see a lot of glitch artists do this. Sabato, I think we could call a glitch artist, or has been on the glitch chat boards there and has put out a lot of glitch work. So this is kind of, working with these vintage softwares, as I think Kristen Roos puts it, and I think is more commonly explained as. Is kind of a technique of sorts, or of way of operating. So here we have Deluxe Paint 4, I think came out in the late 80s, and we see a dragon. And what's interesting about this is it's kind of deceptive in its complexity, because it has a fairly, look at what I find interesting, of many things is first the color. The color works on what I call the reptilian level. It works just immediately. As soon as you see it, you delight. It kind of has that, again, these cycling gradients, and it just creates this sense of pleasure of color, this kind of dance of color. It delights the eyes, and it's just kind of hypnotizing. And then you even have a beautiful blue backdrop with some gradients in there. Again, a few gradients in there, again, making kind of this is looks deceptively simple. The real revolution, though, I would argue, of this work is actually how this dragon, and it's called the Year of the Dragon, is kind of blockily, portrayed here, which I think is quite interesting. Beautiful eye there, too, kind of reminiscent of those dragon, costumes, for lack of a better term, where you'll see several dancers, and then that eye kind of reminds you, but it's just a rainbow gradient, interestingly. But doing this blocky-like format, and also, if you look at the scales of the dragon, the skin of the dragon, the scales here, it's interesting, I think, as well, how it turns into kind of, in the last little area here, as it tapers off, it's a different kind of portrayal, and it's almost as if this is to give it a sense of space, because up here, in the neck and the head, we see a very kind of detailed portrayal. Here we see like kind of a middle ground of sorts, and then a background, kind of a foreground, middle ground, and background of sorts, creating, interestingly, a sense of space, but also keeping this kind of squarishness here. And also, the leg looking pretty much like the same sort of size as this leg here, all giving it a kind of computer graphic-y kind of look, which for those that are not necessarily been exposed to a lot of this, is a kind of aesthetic of sorts. In a sense, maybe part of the mission of this show is, and I didn't have this when I started this show, but is kind of helping, one of the things it can do is help explain this kind of aesthetic, of the scene to a certain degree for those that might understand. So anyway, many things we can do here. Just a beautiful work. Interestingly, a blocky head here and cool little flaring nostrils. A delightful, fun work that kids can understand, but still sophisticated, for the connoisseurs. So let us continue here. And so this is called Year of the Dragon, and it's on Zora. There are 187 minted. This is what's called a free mint. In other words, it costs a couple of bucks to mint this thing in fees. And then, so just a gorgeous work here. Nice work on the text and the background, too, which Sabato controls. Lots of nice comments here. One of the nice things of Zora, and this is available for 30 days. Now, we have seen this before. I did want to bring this up because that blocky, portrayal, again, kind of computer graphic-y portrayal, kind of reminiscent very obliquely of what we see in Ultima 4. It's like a space that is created through kind of computer graphics. Because what's going on in Ultima 4, it's kind of simultaneously, there's the figure, and I don't want to go too far because a lot of people might not know what I'm talking about here. Again, but there's the figure who you see kind of going through space, and that's kind of like straight on. But it also feels like you're taking at least a 45-degree angle, but it's so flat, so it becomes a kind of computer graphic space. And I think we're seeing something similar in the dragon there, and we saw it kind of here too with the goose. And these are Sabato's drawing exercises here on Object, which is on the Tezos blockchain, of course. And as you see here, we saw it I've seen that kind of structure before with Sabato. Again, doing an animal, and here we have, which was making light of the goose auction, the artwork. And so that was, when was that? June 16th. So that was about 7 months ago. 80 Tezos. Sabato's secondary here is doing quite well on these drawing exercises. And as you see here, it's at 68 here, just of the ones that were put on Object. And it's a really delightful series. And just finally here's VFX Farm, probably one of my favorites. Actually, I'll show you my favorite, I think. There's a lot of favorites. This one's great, just people working in the office with drones. I think if I had to pick one, and who wants to just pick one, the ping pong player is actually also pretty awesome. This one is also, and it's kind of back to this kind of just, you see the power of aesthetics and just pure aesthetic, again, just kind of like cycling color here. This is the one that would come to mind, but there are a ton, but just a delightful composition here and execution. high-rise window washer. How much is that? Not even for sale. Very low edition for this series, 16. So really cool work there from Sabato. So go mint that. It'll cost you only a couple of bucks for the Year of the Dragon. And yeah, let's just keep going here. I guess the final thing I want to say on this is I'm thinking of doing some sort of intro videos so people understand, where I can say at the start, if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the videos below, and then you'll have something like an hour on pixel art, an hour on, various different kinds of genres, maybe glitch, whatever, all the digital painting. And then just to introduce people, and then talk about that so people have kind of a clue going into this. Because, again, it's easy to forget. It's the most common thing I hear from people outside of this scene is, it looks interesting, but I don't know what's going on. And it's a stark reminder for all of us within it that, this may not be as accessible as we think. And we think, what's not accessible about pixel art? But it's about the kind of leap in judgment that one requires to say, I would argue, feel free to disagree and leave a comment. I would argue it's the leap that says, this is art that we can take seriously. And that's it's kind of counterintuitive because it looks like a video game. This looks like kids stuff, right? If you don't know what you're seeing, right? Or if you don't understand maybe the subtleties, or you just haven't been exposed to a lot of it. So all to say, lots to do here. The mission continues. Artist Journal Live. So we had Kalo on digital art and NFT media. Now, for those that are kind of looking to sharpen their entrepreneurial skills, I highly recommend to give this a listen. It is in my feed. It was super interesting how Kalo has turned his newsletter into a business, and it is a true business. I was taking note there, and it's super interesting. So maybe, just maybe, we can do the same thing here. So again, if you're kind of wondering about just good ideas, I guess Kalo, I didn't realize, I think studied data science and entrepreneurialism as kind of specialties, I think in college, as far as I understand. It's all in the space there. It's super fascinating space. So big shout out to Kalo, and thanks for coming on the show. Unknown Collector, so this was fun too, with Click Create last night. Collector's Corner, Digital Art and Culture with Adrian Pocobelli. So big shout out to Unknown Collector and Click Create. Thanks for having me there. That was a ton of fun. We just did that last night. It is 24/7 over here, hilariously. That was just a really, really fun conversation. So that is also posted in the feed if you're interested. I go into the background and all sorts of stuff of my history there. Okay, so comments on last show. We are all remixers. That wonderful statement by Dan Control. Score, also known as Saiko. Thank you so much for reviewing about Art Fair Tokyo and the exhibition. Yes, the exhibition has been held in Tokyo. There are so many legendary artists in the lineup. I'll share photos and videos of the art fair. It must be interesting there. Indeed. Please do. And we will show them here. Santiago Ruao. I always discover new artists in your program. Thank you. And I really appreciate that, Santiago, because I believe you've been watching for quite a while now. So I'm glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that. Crash Stop. Remix culture is at the heart of any going back to the Renaissance or further. Indeed. It's like with a different name, but exactly. I mean, T.S. Eliot, I think, called it the anxiety of influence, right? We should actually, if we were to get really high end here, we should open that essay at a certain point. Maybe I'll take a look at it on the weekend and see if it's something that is kind of YouTube friendly, show friendly here. Let's continue with what Crash Stop is saying. Remix culture is at the heart of any art, going back to the Renaissance or further. Each generation looks at previous generation works and borrows themes, iconography, techniques, or just plain copies. As Lawrence Lessig states, I've described what I mean by remix by describing a bit of its practice. Whether text or beyond text, remix is collage. Interestingly, it comes from combining elements of read-only culture. Very interesting. It succeeds by leveraging the meaning created by the reference to build something new. I can relate to this a lot. I mean, very rarely do I start, I'm kind of marvel at artists who just decide, and, it's kind of one of those things I'd like to try one day. I've done it before, but very rarely do I just start building a work from nothing. right? Just from pure imagination and go, like, I almost always bring in a reference of sorts, kind of appropriation of sorts. So it's interesting. So I do relate to this statement a lot. And again, exactly. And there's kind of a rationale for it, one could argue, in the sense that if you're bringing in, it's sort of like what we saw with, it was Strange Thing at the end of, I think it was last episode or the episode before, who had the Tiberius, or however you say the name of the river god in Rome. But we find that in Le Déjeuner sur l'Herbe. And we've seen Wasteman Goldminovich comment on it. And when you become a part of that conversation, like, there's something to be said. And I would argue it's actually more than remixing. It is quoting. And quoting, maybe there's a difference, an important distinction to be considered here between quoting and remixing. And I think they overlap. But, I think what they called remixing, and maybe they still do in, say, the literary arts, it's kind of like quoting. Not necessarily direct quoting, but it's a way, you can do it in painting too. And again, just like Edouard Manet is quoting that classical sculpture, and again, I would argue, making the work more relevant, and arguably, depending on where you come from, but if the tradition is your starting point, it makes the work more meaningful. Because then all of a sudden, Edouard Manet's Déjeuner sur l'Herbe is in discussion, so to speak, with all of the other, representations of that sculpture going back to that sculpture. And it becomes a kind of classicism in this modernism, but very subtly put in. So all very interesting, right? So I feel like we're just beginning what is a profound discussion, isn't it? As RJ said in a second here. We'll go to that in a second. Thank you for the wonderful comment, Crash Stop. Louise Andre Gamma, another awesome video. Thank you. Kiro, thanks for showing my artwork looking at digital art in Japanese text. It's a woman watching digital art on her computer in bed. Hilarious. That was a beautiful work. A lot of beautiful work from Kiro. And also on X here, HJ NFT New York City. Great as always. Thank you. Lucas Lejeune. Thanks again for the feature regarding the programming aspect. I use a bit of scripting, but it's all done in After Effects. Interestingly, I never would have guessed. And most shapes are drawn in Illustrator. Right now, I'm working on a new series using AI generations from a custom SD model and animation with Adobe or with After Effects. Very interesting, very complex, or at least very refined sort of process there. Thanks for sharing, Lucas. And I think it just really adds, it's really nice to hear the process, because then you return to a Lucas Lejeune, and I think we have one in this episode again. And then, so with all this information, we re-examine your work, and then like people will re-examine your work, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, and then you come to a kind of a deeper understanding and arguably appreciation of the work. Let's continue. Thank you. Roman Dritz, thank you for featuring my piece with Mikey Wilson. You're more than welcome, and great to have a new artist on the show there. Human Boy, really love remixes myself. Need to do more of them, but always fun practice and learning experience. Yeah, and this was coming up too, as just a way of starting somewhere. Thanks again for featuring my art in today's show. You're welcome. I've actually not used Stable Diffusion yet. Maybe the textures you're referring to are added in GIMP. And maybe that is the case, because I haven't put it this way, I used GIMP for an afternoon and found it kind of hard to use. That was about probably 8 years ago, though. So I have a feeling it's a little easier and just kind of better right now, because a lot of people use it, and I didn't remember it. I felt like when I used to try and use it, it felt like a difficult Photoshop, but hard to say. So all to say, thanks for the extra info in there, and good to know. And so, not Stable Diffusion. Ain't nothing. This is relaxing somehow. I can't wait for you to discover my art, sir. Did I bring you, I think I may have found, hopefully it wasn't in one of the bookmarks. If it is, then it'll probably be on Monday. I may have taken a look, but actually I think that was someone who emailed. Someone emailed me, and I'm not going to say who, but who's in this show, who's just giving it a long shot here, and then emailed my website, and then sent me their a link to their work, and I think they had like one work. So I'll leave it a secret who that was, but I was like, that's pretty cool. So I put it in the show. Anyways, let's continue here. Thanks. I'm taking note, and I'm trying to keep tabs as much as I can, but it's challenging, let me tell you. But thanks for the comment. Ray Kays, Lucas Lejeune, Beck, and Tez friends, great to hear from you. RJ, super interesting episode today. Love the discussion around remixing. Wish I had the ETH for the Dan Control piece. What a banger. And thank you also for sharing the latest pieces. And this is hard. Like, we talk about accessibility. I would argue this is quite a difficult piece to a certain degree, even from within the scene. Like, again, you didn't see the tweets get a ton of traction because maybe half the people, if not 3/4 of the people, don't even recognize the reference. And then if you don't know the reference, then how are you going to really understand the work, right? But all of a sudden, once you realize, oh, this is a remix of Blue Monday, and then Dan is remixing this remix after he saw, so to a certain degree, you want the art to speak for itself, but this didn't require, you could actually theoretically put this all together if you had all your references in your head. All to say, brilliant work from Dan, and thanks for the comment, RJ, and interesting to hear you as well, thinking this is pretty exciting work. So all to say, because again, it wasn't like super celebrated out there. So Dan Control, fine, and this came out actually before the show was put out. This came out the morning after I recorded, but before I posted. Then I saw this tweet from Dan Control. Finally, someone who criticized me and goes against me. So someone made a comment on Dan's work. I am a remixer, not an illustrator. An artist, not an inventor or craftsman. Dig deep, never take it for granted. Art should make you think and reason, not simply admire and hang in your home. I copy and do it very well. So, of course, for those that aren't aware, this is a Dan Control work that we started the show with last episode. And then here, a whole bunch of work that Dan Control has appropriated from. I would need many complaints and complaints and complaints. Duchamp, Picasso, McDonald's, Mickey Mouse, on and on it goes. So, so just very interesting comment from Dan Control there. Doubling down on a remixer. Julie W. Design. So this is some AI account, I think. Or maybe this is someone from the scene, actually. I'm not sure. Julie W. Design. OpenAI's newest text-to-video model, Sora, might actually win me back. So this is pretty impressive. So OpenAI, of course, now that's ChatGPT, right? So it looks like OpenAI, because Midjourney, that's interesting, because this is incredible. Look, the prompt. The camera rotates around a large stack of vintage televisions, all showing different programs, 1950s sci-fi movies, horror movies, news static, a 1970s sitcom, etc. And this is what the AI developed. And again, you can see maybe up here just a touch of AI. Now, what's interesting about this is first how complex it is in what it's giving you. Like the fact this is a pretty hard thing to do. This person, though, Henry here, reminds me of this artwork in DC and links to this Namjoon Paik work, I believe a Korean artist, and who used a lot of TVs. If you go to a lot of modern museums, you'll see this artist, kind of the first, I think, one of the earlier, you might say, conceptual artists using TVs and this sort of thing. Kind of more installation-esque, shall we say. And you do see this and you do go, oh, maybe there is a structural similarity here. And maybe that was the source. It does remind you of that. So just kind of interesting, but impressive and worth noting here. Robness V3, just a market kind of... So OpenSea is a market, of course, as most of us know. OpenSea is going to be a barren wasteland this next cycle, if not already. Pretty interesting comment here. Because, of course, OpenSea was the main marketplace in the 2021 bull market, historic bull market there. And it's starting to, what I think the biggest threat to OpenSea is Magic Eden, which is another marketplace, because of the ordinals. Like Magic Eden, they started, I think, with Solana, and they're multi-chain. And they just kind of, to a certain degree, they own the ordinal marketplace space because they adopted it early and they seem pretty committed to it. I don't know what OpenSea is doing. Like, they had all that VC money. Why didn't they do ordinals? They could, yeah. So all to say, interesting comment from Robnus V3. Gogolitis, I'm seriously considering turning this into a real playable game. Just whip up a small level like this one to see what I've got, to see if I've got what it takes. So this is, of course, a Gogolitis pixel art work. And you see the little kitties here, and I think that's a wonderful idea if it's not like a crazy, insane amount of work. How cool would that be? And it kind of speaks, to this, it's kind of coming full circle because a lot of the aesthetic, what I often call the second generation of digital art here, the way I loosely define it is people that grew up with video games. So they kind of grew up with a certain kind of digital pixelated landscape, visual landscapes, for lack of a better term, or UIs and everything. And so, just through nostalgia and experience and just growing up, visual cultural experience, there's kind of an aesthetic there that you see works like this that are highly collected by people as well who kind of grew up with that or who appreciate that. So, yeah, so interesting now to turn this art into a video game. Very, very interesting. Interesting developments, I'd say. We talked about a soft market the last 6 weeks. I think it's kind of starting to unsoften amazingly. The resilience of this market is amazing. Now, this doesn't speak directly to that, but we'll get to others that will. But look at this strange thing. Blown away by the incredible support from legends in the music world lately, from Milli Vanilli to The Game, Bugsy Malone, and now Adam Lambert here, it's surreal. So Strange Thing continues, because of course Strange Thing is out of this kind of blockchain art scene, renowned AI artist. So how interesting for Strange Thing starting to get serious follows here from some pretty, influential musicians and artists here. I woke up in the middle of the night thinking of poor Strange Thing and his COVID. After my bout with COVID, these moments feel even more precious. Truly grateful for this journey and share it with you all. So again, huge shout out to Strange Thing. Get well soon. And congratulations on the follows there. Now let's look at the market. Again, evidence that the market is not that soft already. Maybe it's because Bitcoin's just shot past 50 grand and people are feeling rich again. Let's see. And that is all she wrote. This is Tez Vending Machine. We are sold out. Do you believe it? Michael Micasso and Tez Vending Machine. Tez art community truly is the greatest force. People might not know yet, but events like this will bring awareness in big time. Y'all rock. And here is the Tez Vending Machine. And the idea is you put in you put in some Tezos and you get work out. Not cheap, 33 Tezos, but you're getting Michael Micassos. Oftentimes, I think, is how it works. Or there's a whole bunch of Michael Micassos in there and you can resell those for much more than that. Retro Manny, Speechless. One of my favorite OG pieces from 22, Artificial Dreams, just sold for 100 Tezos. Big love to Tuna Kuna for scooping this up on secondary. So another big sale here. From a reference from Retro Manny. Here's Cider, Traveling Salesman Problem. This sold for 0.6 ETH, $1,691. Not the sense of a soft market, is it? And we saw that last episode where works were selling out. It's heating up again, astonishingly. I mean, a bear market in this scene is like 6 weeks. Hilarious. Cider, testing out a few prints. So this is also Cider. And I wasn't sure what Cider meant. First bot, I don't know if making light or if it actually is a bot. All to say, someone spent 0.6 ETH. Testing out a few prints. Here's Cider. So this is interesting too. A very challenging situation for Cider, I would argue, which is how to make these works physical. Because they're very textured. Maybe this is the best way to do them. They look like likely inkjet, but not exactly sure. You have all these gradients. They are, in a sense, somewhat photographic in their detail. So likely inkjet is the way, but this is the kind of, I wrestled with these kinds of problems for years. And you may have to, like just keep on coming back to this and coming back. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. One wonders the different ways. It's pretty tricky with all these colors. I think inkjet probably is your thing. But then I guess this is what I'm getting to here. Then all of a sudden things like the kind of paper that you're printing on become of paramount importance, right? Because ultimately, I would argue, just as with the digital work, but with the physical work, you're trying to create, I would argue, a sense of preciousness of the work. It has to, it's why you see, like, if you see Warhol screen prints, often they're on torn paper and really nice paper. Maybe you'll see a little stamp on them, like a embossing stamp. All those little details, signing it really nice with like the perfect, lightness of pencil or darkness of pencil. All of those things start to come in, I would argue, in creating the sense of value of this work, and that this isn't simply just, pressing print. This is something special, precious. This is precious. So that is, I would say, the challenge for Cider is how precious can you make these works feel? So very cool to see, and very cool to see you working. What I learned from these, my prints need to be bigger, right? Like this is, and nothing beats experience, right? I got so much more details to show. Like nothing beats experience. This is a scientific laboratory, so Cider has opened up the laboratory, okay, on the printing side of things. So just super cool. Congratulations for doing that. I'm sure you've done it before, but big applause from over here for doing that. Here's Santiago Ruao, late GM. So look at how good this looks. We may have even seen this piece. Look at how slick this looks on some very nice, you can see it's almost like shiny paper. So again, and looking like professional printers here at work. So just very interesting there from Santiago Ruao. More interesting physicals. And I thought this was hilarious. This kind of, what I almost consider a famous work in this scene. This instantly famous bear that nobody can forget once you see it, with the stretched neck, the digitally stretched neck. This wonderful work here, which if you haven't seen this, I go into detail. It starts a show, so it's easy to find on YouTube. So interesting to see a physical version here from Martin Bruce of this wonderful, wonderful work. Interesting work here. This is Luciana Jovine, I think also Luciana Guerra, and this is called Runes. So I believe this is her first mint on Zora. So interesting kind of physical, kind of photography with looks like a physical work hanging, being stretched out in the window here. So very interesting beginning here. Painting and ruins in Buenos Aires with beautiful sun there. I am envious of the sun there. Emerge. So getting started on Zora. Very cool. And look at this. This is Quampa. Little work in progress. So a little clue, and let's see if we can make this bigger. A little clue here of how Quampa makes these epic works of art, starting with what looks like a 1 pixel, pen or pencil or brush. When it's 1 pixel, it doesn't matter, and creating all the outlines. So very interesting. Hopefully we get other updates too, so we can kind of watch this develop. Already 16 megabytes, hilariously, with 2 colors. So you see all the work that is in a Quampa, and I thought this was great too. Retro Manny, handmade birthday card for my wonderful daughter's birthday today. So happy birthday to Manny's daughter, and what a beautiful card here. So I thought I would put it here with the physicals here. So happy birthday, Daddy. Oh, hilarious. Okay, now maybe I shouldn't have juxtaposed this work here. Here's a pretty sobering work here from Die with the Most Likes, and I believe Xerox. I think a collab here, and maybe Louis Ponce. So 3-way work here. And this is, I believe, an edition of 34. Yeah, you can see the Louis Ponce here in this kind of rotating, in the circle here. This kind of design here, maybe down here as well. And you see the Die with the Most Likes here in the outlines. I wonder if Xerox is in the textures here and maybe a bit of the background there. Pretty cool collab. Pretty, as you can see here with these drones dragging these figures across, a very dark work here. And here you see figures and like almost like the skin or a swine being, gutted here with this figure with a mask. So all to say, very edgy work, interesting color. Very interesting color. The Rise and Fall number 34. And so I think there are 35. There are 35 NFTs. So selling out, as far as I understand, and now is selling out at 0.311, so a third of an ETH. So bringing in, I think, 10 ETH. Is that right? 30 times 0.3. That sounds about right. Yeah, 10 ETH, which is these days like $28,000. Not bad. This could have also have started the show here. This beautiful Edmarola, the first Tego Dago I've seen, part of this They Are Dreaming Us series, multi-chain series here. And look at how awesome this structure is. And whatever is going on here, even incorporating what looks like a bit of glitch, styling, so to speak, with this kind of, as you see the image move there, there's the They Are Dreaming Us, and this beautiful border, which may have influenced a project I'm working on. These kind of, I put a border on a pixel artwork, and I was like, this feels like Edmarola, and I thought, I wonder if that's an Edmarola influence. Anyways, look at here, almost like a lily pad type situation there, a leaf. And so all sorts of juxtapositions, and this figure with kind of like a cross and an ancient vase. So just a beautiful, beautiful piece. Is it not? 2 Tezos, edition of 100. So just very, very cool here. And yeah, so you can read the write-up there. Yeah, so how many are left here? There are 60 left, so it's selling pretty well. Actually, already 39 gone, as far as I understand. This also could have started the show. Remember we saw the lawnmower that Hasdrubal Waffle did? And I mean, people, like, this is where this show probably gets inaccessible, right? Because people just go, because the first time I saw Hasdrubal Waffle's work, I was sort of like, well, these are kind of like kids' drawings, like, what's the deal here? But when you kind of get to learn deeper and understand here what's going on, I would argue there's kind of on one level, and it's not just conceptual, it's like you start to appreciate the aesthetics, but a kind of digital expressionism, shall we call it, where it's just kind of not having to be too perfect, in terms of, you see all this roughness, and people that might not be familiar with our scene, this is kind of your classic example of them going like, what are you talking about? Right? And meanwhile, I'm saying, oh, this could have started the show, and I came probably this close. I went with the International Year of the Dragon, but this could have, and not only that, so there's the beautiful kind of rendering here, again, using kid softwares or softwares found online. Also, weird stuff that Hasdrubal Waffle will find on eBay. So not only is there kind of what, takes a bit to understand this aesthetic here and what's going on, but once you do, then you start to love it. And it's actually kind of back to what I call the second generation of digital art, rightly or wrongly. That's just what I call it for now, until kind of strongly corrected in terms, and then I'll change, but I still kind of see it that way. You see the kind of a video game-esque aesthetic here. But you know what else I love about this and why it could have started in my mind, and why I was very tempted to? This to me was kind of a metaphor for the entire scene. This is like, it's done in this kind of video gamey kind of, expressionist way, but what is it? It's like a figure skater who has done this, acrobatic act, in digital form here and then here we see like the lawnmower work. Did it again. Remember the lawnmower work where it's got a digital texture? Maybe we can very quickly bring that up. The lawnmower work where there's a digital texture here, this work here, which reminded me again of that kaya boat, the floor scrapers, right? And here, this is brilliant. Again, this totally, and accidental or not, who cares? This is brilliant. Where the digital textures are being mowed down here, and you see the pixels flying out. You could argue this is a similar, like, what a perfect duet these would make in the gallery in your mind, right? Like, I can't remember who picked this up. Someone, Yuri J for 0.05. And then this one was picked up by Daedalus Zeus. I mean, you could put these in the same room because they're kind of saying all of a sudden you see this texture that's being formed here with this ice skate. And then it creates this different kind of digital texture here. Kind of a similar thing going on here. And almost like this line is the skater, like being dragged by the artist here. This pixel brush is also, the skate here. And this is the artist, like that's what I see. The artist has done this acrobatic act and is like, ta-da, right? And so just brilliant. And even the line itself, and so just, what's it called? Swalcapades. Only 4 megabytes, 2600 by 1648 PNG. So the brilliant Hasdrubal waffle added again. And that is sold. The internet is our frontier now. So a new one by RJ. So of course, Caspar David Friedrichs del Wanderer, a famous massive artwork, probably the symbol, really, of romantic painting at the end of the day here, gets the pastiche treatment here in this beautiful kind of retro monitor green and black from RJ here, and then a little bit of noise, some colorful noise here to fill in the outlines here, or the gaps, so to speak, or to fill things in to give it kind of a special look, a beautiful contrast, and everything. This is a 1 of 1, went to Flexosaurus Rex, maybe a private sale or just sending it, after Wanderer Above the Sea of Fog. Very interesting. Here's another one that was posted on X. I'm not sure if this was minted or if we looked at this. I don't think we did. Of course, Vermeer here, what is it called? The milk, the something pours or something like that. Of course, we all know this painting here. So another cool one, turning the milk, adding a little bit of noise there. Visual noise. And then we got this Picasso Guernica. The internet is also a war zone. And kind of interesting focus on the internet here. And kind of changing up this snowy movement here, adding a sense of foreboding with the red. And again, doing a cool pastiche here, kind of a simple pastiche, but effective pastiche in this green and black. You know what it looks like to me? This series, it looks like it was created, and this is how so many series start, particularly for me, like this is why I assume this, is this was probably RJ's putting out the outlines, as we were seeing with almost Quampa, putting out the outlines to make the work, and probably he was doing it in green, or maybe a variation of the green, and just looked at it and said, you know what, I think I like this. And then adding the noise, the static here, the movement here, and then going, oh, I have a new series, I have a new way of doing it, and boom, 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 don't even need to color stuff in, and it's just as effective. It's almost back to our raw discussion here. Kind of a variation on the non-finito. This is like not the full pastiche, it's just a hint towards the pastiche. It's a step of the pastiche, but you could obviously take it further. But is it poetic, more poetic, leaving it half finished? Finally getting some light in here. And so 35 Tezos at auction. So nice sale there. Tezos above $1. Look at this splash screen. Cool title. David Hockney. This is also RJ. Great sales here. 30 Tezos each, not cheap. Edition of 5 and selling out. Yuri J picking up 2 of them. So loving them. Let's take a closer look. And I think this was this a Valentine's Day? No. After David Hockney's Peter Getting Out of Nick's Pool, 1966. And of course, a lot of us are familiar with this wave here at the water, and there's a computer looking on, splashing. You almost see a screensaver of the splash there, brilliantly done. Just an awesome piece. Again, the market, like 30 Tezos, edition of 5, sold out, looking like probably pretty fast. Market, crypto, maybe with crypto coming back, this market is starting to feel strong again. Here is Death of Zero. So this was finally minted by Rare. This was just put on Foundation, reserve of 1 ETH. And again, we see this, I think it's Death of Marat. And this is hilarious here. Now we can see it looks like a seed phrase so of course the seed phrase being the code that you need for crypto to access your digital wallet, for those that might not know. And there you see even a little signature of Rare, and then Tesla robot. Digital painting pastiche based on Jacques-Louis David's 1793 masterpiece, The Death of Marat, with revolutionary martyr Jean-Paul Marat replaced by Tesla's Optimus 2 humanoid robot. The narrative, by replacing the Marat with the robot, the narrative is shifted from the French Revolution to the robotic AI revolution we're all on the cusp of. Very cool, very sophisticated, and I actually brought it up big just so we could see a particularly detailed pastiche here, having that beautiful kind of oil paint kind of look here. And this is hilarious. It's even a little bit of blood. And there's a little Pepe snuck in there. And so very cool from Rare. So that's on Foundation. This is also on Foundation. Matthias Morano, The Freedom, and I believe this was just minted. It was Stirring Emotions. And so we saw some work by Matthias on Object recently. So here's another one. And always kind of with a bit of a mythological feel to it. Definitely has his own style here. And interesting kind of tattoos all over these two bodies here, as well as these Cupid figures here. Just interesting. And a few, Bitcoin kind of coins here flying through here. A nod to the crypto art scene. Very interesting piece, interesting title. This is chapter 3, and this is going for 0.7 ETH. And this is also in the Space World Showcase. So I think those are in the same show, if I'm not mistaken. Shall we be blinded from the sun today? This hasn't happened since my last apartment. For longtime viewers, you may remember that. Maybe it's good lighting finally, and a harbinger maybe of summer here. Let's continue here. Jan-Lucas Magone. We have another interesting work here on a bull with these skeletons here. The bull getting a different kind of treatment than the skeletons. The skeletons, of course, more painterly here with these beautiful brush marks here. And here we see the bow and arrows here of this person. Oh, it kind of has a mythological feel to it, doesn't it? Kind of reminds me of a futurist work, actually, to a certain degree, by, I want to say, Umberto Boccione. Let's just take a very quick look here. Paintings. Very quick look. Kind of like, was it this one? What? Maybe kind of like that one. Kind of maybe it was this one that I was thinking of. And here's kind of like this one, but pretty different actually. Kind of had this feeling though, didn't it? Doesn't it? The City Rises. Interesting. Political painting there. So pretty different in the end there. Interesting halo. And this is LFG Archer. That is hilarious. So Jan-Lucas Magone, and also has it on the website there. 5,000 by 5,000 edition of 30 and selling out at 11 Tezos. So what bear market? We're back to what bear market, what softness in the market. The existential threat posed by novel technology. This is quite interesting. To sum it up here, Weissman Goldminovich was in a waiting room and found the work of this artist. And saw this work in the waiting room, maybe a reproduction, and that he was, and this is by an artist, troublemaker in Barcelona in the 1890s, which he was ostracized from the art world and painted odd portrait for members of the provincial bourgeoisie to make his way. He was alcoholic and homeless, and he was forgotten until his reappraisal in the 1960s, which resulted in a posthumously granted reputation as a visionary. His work is now worth a fortune. So pretty interesting. So painted this from memory, interestingly. Pretty cool work. We're kind of back to this remix idea, isn't it? Aren't we? So again, this kind of upside down phone hilariously, and the cigar, one imagines that the cigar is perhaps, just perhaps, a Weissman Goldminovich edition there, and there's a little mouse. Very cool to paint from memory like that. Beautiful work. And so this is 3 Tezos, there are 4 gone. Edition of 11. And here is Uxine, limited edition of 33 here. A Valentine's work here. Is it called Hype? Hype. So Hype, just like, kind of a, kind of a mixed kind of message, one could say, of Valentine's Day. And the Valentine rose here with thorns on it and a skull on top, and HYPE put in the corners there. A very cool work from Uxine. And that is on a manifold, if I am not mistaken. Yes, that is on manifold XYZ. Here's another work. Point of view, and of course I follow Uxine, that is X. Big glitch in X is why it says that. Big egalitarian government exploits third world countries while you're leaving your 9-to-5 job in your electric cart and sipping your oat milk latte with a paper straw. So, interestingly, of course, Uxine out of Turkey. So, it's interesting, these tools here. Someone was making a comment, and I think it was in the bookmarks that weren't loading up for me after I simply loaded up too many Twitter pages this morning. But someone was mentioning how Hen was kind of the revolution of the global, kind of an art revolution of the global South. And I thought that was kind of a poignant, interesting take on that. And that a lot of these blockchain artists, especially one could argue on Tezos, because of the low minting fees, are coming out of, what is often called the global South, and in other words, which is kind of often in distinction to the West, So, very interesting work here. So just posted on Twitter. And so here, point of view. So a little bit of commentary here and beautifully painted here. Adding in a few more colors here from Uxine, and there's a happy face on the latte. So a visual representation of some commentary. Coquette, this is Bazaya, 3A5A1A, also known as Bazaya, and this is on Zora. So cool here. This was minted when probably recently, maybe a day ago, and here's just a new work here. With this figure here, it's the Apple Vision Pro in a pool. So just a cool, fun Bazaya work out of Argentina, right? So there's something to be said here. I mean, where is Dataste from? I think Dataste maybe is from Latin America as well, if I'm not mistaken. Not everyone that shines is God, or Lux Perpetua, so interesting. I don't have Latin. There's a thief on that cross. Okay, so here a little poem. This is an edition of 1 for 25 Tezos. Let's take a closer look. Kind of a Roman statue here with a little cross and some candles. Interesting floor. And then here we see a figure with a white lacrosse sweater, and kind of all the eye is black, interestingly. And then a little bit of a nod to Jeff Koons here, right? So, just more evidence for just interesting commentary here. And again, more evidence for the sophistication of this scene here, and how there may be more going on here than might be realized from outside of this world here. Interesting landscape here, done almost in a Renaissance type style, where it starts to get kind of hazy in the background, interestingly. So that's a 1 of 1 for 25 Tezos. Couple of interesting works by Soom, Against All Odds. So Soom going back, this almost has a bit of a de Kooning type feel to it, doesn't it? So looking like me, so playing around, almost looking like a de Kooning type woman type figure here. Shall we look quickly here? I haven't looked at de Kooning woman. I mean, pretty vaguely, not too close, but almost, and you see it in the mark making here. Almost a touch of Picasso in its kind of blockiness, you might say here as well. Anyways, beautifully painted by Soom here, Against All Odds. And this was burned, but there may be a newer version. Let's just take a closer look here. But really nice piece, nice kind of pencil work over top of the color and everything. Like, look at how textured this is. Right? Like, look at how, just frankly, how painterly and beautiful this is. Very, beautiful work here. So, Against All Odds, cool title. And, yeah, that was just burnt and never re-minted. We have a new one here, The King. This is 3 Tezos. So, interesting, very painterly, looser style here. Very cool. I think it looks great. And this is called The King. This is edition of 10 for 3 Tezos each. And here's another one called High, and this is an edition of 10, and these you have almost sold out. It is sold out. So nice work there. Again, very painterly. Again, you see these kind of almost like pencil or graphite or colored pencils or, wax crayon or something over top of the painting. Almost has a bit of a multimedia feel and the different digital textures here. Again, wonderfully painterly here, isn't it? Beautiful. So very interesting work here, isn't it? Continuing on, Tezos Blietkas. We haven't seen new work, at least I haven't seen new work from Tezos for a long time. Air-Planetary Lux System. Very interesting artist. Edition of 20 for 10 Tezos. I feel like it's been like 6 months since we've seen work from Tezos. Maybe I just missed it. Very experimental, interesting artist here. Kind of one of the more earlier experimental artists that I would show on this show. I think I showed it like once or twice, Tezos' work. Look at this. And we have this great zoom tool, thanks to Object, and even this figure, this cat in the ground, and these great plants. You see all of the work and all of the experimentation, and then you see this rendering here of the grass and then painted over top. Interestingly, it's like you get this kind of retro rendering of the grass and then painting over top of that. Pretty interesting work, even a touch of collage kind of feel to this landscape here. And looking like a laser or something coming down. Air-Planetary Lux System, interesting. Microsoft Paint, which is a whole other thing. Again, for those that might not be familiar, it's almost like a whole genre to a certain degree. Paintings made with MS Paint. I wonder, I don't think I brought up the crayon. Someone was using crayon, working class. Shall we look really quickly here? I'm not sure if it's in, it may already be in the feed here. I was looking at it here. Let me just very quickly, if we can find it. Otherwise, I'll try and bring it for next show here. Yeah, where is working class? Last shot here. Here it is. Okay, we found it. Look at this. MS Paint with crayon. Okay. I thought this was quite an interesting experiment here. So playing with Microsoft Paint crayon and actually putting out a work here. So pretty cool experimentation here with these tools here, because the easy thing to do would just be, and look at this wild trumpet blowing out blood. I think Dali would approve of that. Very cool. I'm falling in love, darn, and there, the tears of the lover there, hilarious. So Blood Love, The Rock. This is an edition of 1 for 140 Tezos, again using Microsoft Crayon, MS Paint Crayon. Very interesting. Here's like another brilliant work, and we're back to the Year of the Dragon here. Also could have started this show, right? Marcelo Pinel, Blessing of a New Dawn. And this is on, interestingly, this is on Solana. So exchange.art, I mean, look at that. So surely, even if you're from outside of this scene, this is something that can be appreciated here. This beautiful work here by Marcelo Pinel with these great fireworks and everything. So Chinese New Year here, Blessings of a New Dawn. This is a reserve of 10 sol, and so we'll see how it does. I wonder if it's on the homepage. Because I could see this ending up on the homepage. Let's put it that way. Maybe it already was. So very interesting. Here's actually some progress shots from Marcelo Pinel on Instagram. So again, we see the outline. Right, we saw that with Quampa, we were seeing that with RJ's Pastiches, and we've actually seen that with Rare in previous episodes where, the beginning of the pastiche is this kind of almost a bright green line, I believe that Rare was also using. And then you see just the progress shots here, not animated here, and then adding more volume, shading, interesting black and white version, all mintable. And then there's the final work there on Instagram. So very cool there from Marcelo Pinel. So that's on exchange.art. This is of course, Demon Ego. Also part of the Stirring Emotion show. So I'll have to take a look at this Stirring Emotion show on Foundation. Where to put this love, how to fill this gap. I mean, it's pretty incredible. Again, the amount of work that is coming out here every, 48 hours. It's like, it's hard to keep up with. And so here's Demon Ego, again, combining digital and physical. Here we see notepad, a little bit of drop shadow there, and then all sorts of stuff, and then just something still in the middle here and on the side, and interesting kind of colors on the border here. Just interesting work. Here's almost tempting to see a self-portrait of sorts, because of course Demon Ego often works with these notebooks here, seemingly. And so this is 0.25 reserve, and this is minted on Valentine's Day. And there is a poem there too. Let's continue. This is Vinnie Hager. Nebulous Electronic Ether Post Collection Claim. So not sure, but cool, kind of has a cool, again, that's kind of sketchbook look. It's not exactly a space here. It's more a juxtaposition, almost like closer to what I sometimes call the doodle style that we see with Basquiat or Keith Haring, right? Where it's like the traditional space of a work, the narrative space, one might say, is kind of, it's flattened out. It's now about just like the two-dimensional piece of paper and juxtaposing things and not worrying about it working in space, so to speak. This seems to be what we see here. Anyway, cool work, interesting background too, going from orange to pink, and all sorts of iconography on top. Very interesting. Here's Nov 1914, Casita on el Árbol de Naranja. I think this is a one of one. Has this sold? History, maybe just minted. It sold to Illusional for 9 Tezos. So let's take a closer look here. Again, this is like, and for those that maybe are outside of this scene, this is hard for people in the scene to understand, but once you do, you really start to appreciate this work here. So seemingly like a treehouse, right? And then some wild, part of it is if you see thousands and thousands and thousands of digital images, which many of us do in this scene, then all of a sudden something that's just breaking convention, trying out different ways of working that are completely different, can be really appealing and a source of interest and even aesthetic pleasure here, as we see with a lot of Nov 1914's works, and this sheer unpredictability of it. You see these kind of wild gradients here, all sorts of things here. So cool work, selling for another 9 Tezos. Nov 1914, continuing with the daily sales here. Here's an artist, Macro G. Mitrai, if I am pronouncing that right. This is a 1-bit work. And as we see here, a seahorse. And let me just bring it up a little bigger here. This is on Foundation, and this is a reserve of 0.28. And as you see here, black and white, and just constructed of all these tiny little elements here, which is interesting. Particularly love at the end there, where it's almost just these digital elements. Very nice. So just interesting work here from an artist we haven't seen before, Macro G. Mitrai. So that's on Foundation. So cool work there. And here's Lord, who I haven't seen for a while, Lord Neutron. So here, this is a one of one. This was minted on Valentine's Day. And of course, Lord always has these, again, another, I'd argue, fairly difficult artist, but always has these kind of metaphysical feeling works here. And we see, the skeleton turning into almost like a nervous system here, turning into the full body CGI rendering, so to speak. And here, just an interesting kind of surreal space here with a tree at the bottom. What is the title on this work? The Spiral of Life. So again, always kind of metaphysical here by Lord Neutron. Very interesting, unique artists there. Here's Ezra Eslin. Another work, again, that shouted front cover, right? Maybe I should have started with this. The Monster, Ezra Eslin, reserve of 0.88, again, part of this Space World Showcase, Stirring Emotions. I quite like this. I found this a powerful work. Someone who's basically not feeling too happy, the monster here, and then just kind of crouching within this larger city or society there that is half on fire and ghosts everywhere, and the wounds here, really nice, powerful Ezra Eslin piece. The Monster. Let's destroy that monster. Interesting. Cool work there. Here is Louis Osborne with a very interesting piece here. Let's actually see the artist cycle. I guess it's time to put the kettle on. So here is coffee, a crucial part of my own process here. And then the person on the laptop, and then checking maybe their social media, posting on social media, liking, seeing other people's social media, crying and resting, and then more coffee. That is hilarious. The artist cycle, and it's all social media here. This is brilliant. This one was burned. I assume there was another one. So yeah, just burned so far. So found another one in the ether here. And here's Uyo66, another prominent illustrator, Mout. Almost has a weird sort of cinematic feel, this one. You know, of course, illustrator here, but you see the red and the blue? It's almost got like this 3D, almost like a glitch filter of sorts. It's almost got a 3D. Maybe this is 3D, because these are the kind of colors you would use, right? This looks like 3D, interestingly. Mout, the Grim Reaper. So this is edition of 1 and selling for 30 Tezos. Very interesting. And here's an artist I hadn't seen before, Biba Dolby, Ever Fallen in Love. So as we continue here, we'll let this load up. So just interesting kind of illustrated GIF with all sorts of chaos going on, and this skull that's splitting with eyeballs rolling, and coffee is back. You could do a whole show on coffee. That would be fun. Maybe if I do a curated show, I'll do it on coffee. Hilarious. Okay, Ever Fallen in Love. So this is on exchange.art, which is Solana, for 0.6 Sol. Another super interesting, super textured work by Mo S-H-I-T, Doc. See if we can get a bigger version of this. None minted so far, but I thought another super interesting work here. See if we do this. So Mo putting out a ton of work, and it's paying off. It is paying off. Like, look at how interesting this is. You know, just kind of new visual experiences here, courtesy of Mo. And that's another important thing to, you know, as I was mentioning on the space yesterday, and I do like this aesthetically, by the way, but as I was saying on the space, we don't have to love all of these works from an aesthetic point of view. That's not necessarily the point, right? Like, there does need to be some, because of course that's probably the main impulse, is an appreciation of beauty. It has to be beautiful, whether it's the work itself or the idea, the colors. Beauty is important. But as I always like to say, we're more than making a pretty picture here. And so, you know, works like this, it is actually working on the aesthetic level, but there's all sorts of experimentation going on here. And it's different, it's unusual. And that, and it, again, if you're seeing thousands of images a week, that becomes really interesting. Like, what's going on over here? And why is it working? Right? So just more interesting work from Mo. This was interesting too, very original. This is Soichi. No Room for Us Here, who of course did that very complex work that we saw the other day. Here, another work, and again, kind of mysterious, would hang well, frankly, with Element Lee, who is coming up here. I never thought of that before. Maybe, and I was like, I sure hope I brought up Element Lee next. So here, of course, another experimental pixel artist, N421, not sure even what this is, but I know I like it. You know, so, okay, so here kind of an architectural scene here, almost like a road, but repeated 4 times, interestingly. And look at that wild border here. So, you know, just look, so interesting. So looking like repeating this element here 4 times, here repeating it twice, and on the first, it's almost like this is being put into, there is an app that I used to use that was actually a Facebook app, and it puts everything in squares. I used to use it like years ago. What is that called? And it would do all these effects on your, it was a Facebook app. So anyways, I don't know if that's what's going on here, but it's tempting to think that. These are the kinds of results, and they're square results that you often get. This looks like the source image here. So N, 4, 2, and 1, right? So 4 of them, 2 of them, and 1. Very cool. More interesting art here. Here's Cancino, who of course did those amazing Diego Maradona works. If you haven't seen, let me just show you very quickly here if they load up. Well, while that's loading, here we have a basketball work here with some really nice dithering here. It does make you wonder what was used for this beautiful. It's a kind of a simple but beautiful gradient in the background there. You would think either Ace Bright or maybe something else, maybe even Deluxe Paint, not sure. So anyways, change it, and there's Cancino's name. So anyways, changing the focus to basketball here. As you see, and I didn't even see some of these, doing a ton of soccer works. And so almost like just straight up, so just, I love the topic here, the subject matter, putting out a ton of work here. And there were some really wonderful ones that I haven't seen so many of these updates. I'm going to start following people on Zora too. With all that, I'm going to have to really, it's the editing, because I actually have too many things. That looks like Kalina with no hair there. Anyways, I'm nerding out here on all the soccer works here. We'll see if any of these, like, some of these older ones, that's ASCII. So putting out a ton of work. Good to see the update here from Cancino. Yeah, and here it is, the goal of the century. A delightful work, only 21 minted. I hope I minted one. I really hope I minted this because I plan to. The goal of the century with that famous goal by Diego Maradona. It's Cancino back doing basketball. Here is Chaz with Chazzer, Realm of Adventures, 8-bit adventures. So now changing the subject matter to, is that a Switch? Maybe a Nintendo Switch. And so changing the interface here, one up. Few Mario references, maybe some others, Realm of Adventure, Nintendo DS, with the excitement of a new age quest. This is only 0.05 ETH on Foundation. I guess with ETH doing so well, Foundation is becoming a little more popular for the minting right now. A massive nothingness in the core. So here's Rada with a new work here, and maybe referring to the ETH rock thing, because it seems to have that shape, doesn't it? And there's a little rat and some other rats. And so a new pixel artwork from Rada. Again, so many works could have started this show, and the interesting couple of eyes right there, or those two red dots right there. So very, almost as if a rat is in the shadow there. So as you see here, every pixel considered by Rada here, by the great Rada, every pixel considered. Great pixel artist who got a lot of us into art on the blockchain, frankly, which is interesting because, I've shown those ads before, those older works. I think it's like Cosmo de Medici going with the hounds on the hunt, with classical music, that like, as soon as I saw that, I had to own it. And that's what brought me over to Object, and the Tezos blockchain was Rada's work. Let's continue here. Not a number. P1 and Manadal. So a three-way combo here. Let's see what happens. Turning into a game. A little Valentine's Day game. That is hilarious. And we can actually play it. So maybe this is why Gogolitis is like, maybe I should do a game too. I mean, it's a whole genre. And I don't know how to stop it, so I'm just gonna... Let's do that. Hopefully, there we go. Out of control video game. Look at how cool this is, though. So this is only 214, 2 Tezos on Object, edition of 100. I need to speed up here. We're already at an hour 13, and we have a ton to get through here. Another work by Manadal, also with P1, doing, I believe, the music. We saw the start. Now here's the dynamic kind of finished GIF. So always just kind of fun and cool. Nice color scheme with the red on all the black and white. And just cats hanging out, having fun. With kind of more 8-bit music. Very cool. Here is Stalamir with a new work. This is on Solana, Reserve of 3 Sol. And kind of playing with these, Mother of Enki, which sounds like Gilgamesh. Enkidu? What is it called? The Epic of Gilgamesh. There's always kind of a bit of a Sumerian feel to Stalamir's work here. So it's kind of ancient meets sci-fi in the province of pixel art, in the medium or genre of pixel art. So interesting piece here. As you see, again, kind of like ancient looking, but also sci-fi looking. Probably an ancient pattern there. Super interesting artist very full kind of work as a canvas. Just very cool. So that's on exchange.art, which is on Solana. Epilepsial, so Pixology is back with a little bit of texture there. Let's see if we can zoom in. This is the max we can zoom in. A little bit of texture there in the pixelation, interestingly, with an eye at the center of this mandala of sorts. And interesting kind of techno eye, but also kind of, has an indigenous kind of feel to it. Made on Aspirite, 1,000 by 1,000. Epilepsial, try to open it. So very interesting. And this selling out edition of 20 at 3 Tezos each. Sold out. Or wait, not sold out. How many are left? 4 left. But, the market is moving here. I'm not sure if we looked at this one last time, but it related really well because we had an eye. This is Brain Dead. System V6AI XL. And I don't think we looked at it, actually. And here's the eye on the screen, and then you see all of the work that's going into making the eye work. Like almost all the machinery. I thought quite a brilliant, beautiful work. This metaphor of the machinery of the eye. Quite beautiful. 5 Tezos edition of 20, and 3 are gone. Here is Mayu Space Invaders. And this is black and white edition of 10, and I think just minted. I don't know if it's been listed yet, though. It hasn't been listed yet. So interesting move to black and white here in this piece from Mayu, who often uses these kind of like purple and yellow colors. Space Invaders, very cool. This one was eye-catching, wasn't it? Mason. I think it's Mason the Third, also known as Mason, Church of the Null God. And here, just an interesting kind of 1-bit work here with kind of some effects going on here. A jittery work of this cool architectural castle. Just an interesting piece. That's on Zora, on secondary. Maybe this is older. This might have been on X that I found it. January 15th. I've never seen this before. So minted about a month ago. And probably just expired, probably. Because usually they're mint for a month. Here's Raycase. Ready for the launch of my NFT career. Minting soon. And check these out. Cool little, what look like pixel paintings. Pixel art paintings. Quite beautiful, Raycase. I am ready. Very ready. This is beautiful. Kind of has a bit of a, I guess, an impressionist feel to some of these colors here. Almost like a Van Gogh-like scheme here. If you kind of close your eyes a little bit, you can almost see those a Van Gogh-like palette here. Here, maybe there too. Very interesting. Looking very interesting. So yes, I am ready for the launch. Very cool work, Raycase. Tim Romanowski, good morning. So just interesting abstract here that I want to touch on and not miss. And here is another one here from Denise Sanchez Arte, who has left quite a few comments here. So great to see your art. This is acrylic on paper and digital collage. So this would hang nicely with a lot of these abstracts that we look at here. So interesting combination of digital and physical here. Quite nice. Again, could hang out with the Santiagos there, the Luciana Guerras. Wouldn't it just fit right in there? So all to say, cool work. It's hard to tell what's digital and what's physical, interestingly. So pretty interesting piece here. You could also make prints out of this too, couldn't you? Space stenographies. And is this available? And there's Luciana Guerra. I love it. So very cool. Gogolitis Primordial Soup Forge. So here, taking some of the op art that, or psychedelic style pixel art that Gogolitis was working on and reincorporating it into the circuitry here of these kind of pixel art machines that Gogolitis makes. So very interesting. Almost reminiscent of the Star Wars Lightspeed there in the middle there, but beautiful pixel fun. What is happening here on the market? I don't see any listings yet, so just posted but not listed, I believe. Flux number 11. This is edition of 5 by Brown, so another addition here to this very interesting abstract pixel art series, or abstract digital art series, but with a fair amount of actual just kind of, it is tempting to call it pixel art. Some people would define pixel art as having kind of bigger pixels than this, but definitely we could call it digital abstract, animated abstract here. Interesting color scheme too. Flux number 11. This is again 5 Tezos, edition of 5. Here's Feels. Another kind of animated abstract artist here. This is called Field, and I think this was burned. I'm not sure if there are new ones. Let's just look at the work first. Interesting masking going on here, and just an interesting, again, abstract here. Let's see if a new one was made, just out of curiosity. Not yet. Not yet. As you see here, really talented animated abstract. I think we might have started a show with one of these works, I believe. Yeah, like maybe a couple of months ago. So I'll just say, very cool artist. Here's Jada with a very kind of jittery, giphy, animated abstract work too. I'm not sure if this has been posted anywhere, but another cool work from Jada. GM. That's on X. And of course, Acid Boy here with an interesting rainbow kind of version of the work here. We can even make it full screen here. And another kind of visual dance here for our eyes as we see these kind of plush circles here, you know, orbiting this flashing sphere in the middle. So trippy as ever from Acid Boy. Lucas Lejeune almost looks like a dragon, but hard to say. Again, so we saw Lucas Lejeune in the comments at the start and describing all of the different tools, After Effects, Illustrator, not necessarily a huge amount of code, interestingly. So very interesting and very cool looking. Here's Strano. Sandstorm, Take a Moment. So interesting piece here. I mean, look at this. Kind of geometric. Just kind of almost has a touch of physics and like relativity kind of feel to it here. 11,000, 12,000 views so far. This is on Tezos. And again, remember we saw the Strano work that was that Sabato had picked up, and it was using this kind of pen plotting here. So physical, I think it includes a physical. So I guess that's what Sabato bought. How cool is that? So it has a physical work with it. Coda Nakazono with a nice abstract here as well. Cool colors, a nice animated abstract. Filament number 12, and that is sold, edition of 1, or just transferred, so maybe private sale. Let's speed up here. The Side Hustle, cool kind of simple abstract here with nice kind of colors, rainbow colors cycling through. Reminds you of Kristen Roos. Could hang in the same show. Shapes and Whatnot 01, using graphics too. So remember we were discussing RetroTech at the beginning, using old software. Here's Zwozo, Sunbeam. Let's see if we can get this. So I love Zwozo's work. Just a wonderful, wonderful artist here. So just looking up at the sun here, and what is going on here? 350 edition, one going to Guru Guru Hyena, edition of 20. I think the other one sold out that we were looking at there. That awesome work that I started the show with. I think that's gone. So get it while you can, all to say. So a lot of horses were released in the last day. I think John Cates was, I think I remember reading, was putting on a contest of like horse trading or something. So Human Boy put out a quick, a horsing around horse, as he put it, on X here. So here is a horse of sorts. We're going to see more kind of abstract here. Made in GIMP. Again, we're back to GIMP here. So very interesting software. So edition of 50 for 2 Tezos, and already selling a ton, which is awesome. There are 4 left. So very nice from Human Boy. Here's Walk with another one of these September 11th works. This is 1019, this beautiful blue sky and destruction, one assumes. This is at 2 Tezos on at auction. And here's Kurt Hustle. This is a minute 15, so I'll just give you the highlights because it's wondering, this is Sector 9, Part 1, where's J&K and Terry? An empty airport, arrivals. It seems like an airport. Could be like a flower factory or something for all we know. So, nowhere to be found here. Kind of looking like an airport. Sector 9. So hilarious. Beautiful work from J&K and Terry, a.k.a. Kurt Hustle Collective. Edition of 25 for 3 Tezos. And here is Ellie Lowe Interesting pixelation there. Interesting piece as ever from LA Low. Live guitar recording, digital synths, hand paint, and photo scan textures, manual modeling. So a ton of work put into this. Edition of 50, again, kind of trash artist here. Trash Bag S2, Season 2, Episode 4 maybe. For a Tezos 40, selling a lot of them. So very cool there. As we go into the video glitch art, here's LB Unwind. So we continue this massive episode here. I'm going to have to just make less bookmarks, I guess, because it's just becoming a huge amount of work. There's too much, fun work to check out. Check out LB's work here. Beautiful colors, beautiful textures, just kind of original. Unwind, interesting, cool title. Edition of 10 for 5 Tezos each. Here's John Cates, Rainbow Mare, Lost Resolution. So putting out a few horses here. Glitch Western Art 1 of 1 from John Cates to Horse Traders Association. So starting a little festival. I wonder if that was why Uxine did the Marlboro guy and it was sent to John Cates, right, the other day. So anyway, very cool. This sold, this edition of 1, just transfer, I think. Here's Lorna Mills, looking like kind of joining the party here with a unicorn. Incurably Untrue, again, a racehorse name here. Maybe love the idea of horses because she uses the racehorse name. Cool colors here, complementary colors, blue and orange. 20 Tezos, edition of 30, and quite a few selling here. Already 7 gone. So that is cool. Maybe more, actually. Pale, Ex-Mortal, Pale. So another horse here. So the glitch people doing their horse work. And also, we got a couple of AI works here with the horses. So Pale, this is, and I don't know if this sold out. There are 7 left on primary at 666. And this is in Avare. We looked at this. So this actually, I think we looked at the original of this, and this ended up on Object 1, where they have 1 of 1s there. So really nicely textured work of the dog looking up. I've been watching you, 540 by 960, 500 Tezos. And sold for 500 Tezos. Again, nice market, frankly. I'm not sure if we can call this market soft anymore. Interestingly. Klaus, Composition 132. Here is another work just minted here in the series, just running. Klaus here, 22 Tezos. And we have another one here, number 135. This selling for 23 Tezos to Conehead Squid. And so just running with this beautiful violet, too, in the background there. Running with this series already in the 130s. Here's Ricano, 24 hours. So a cool kind of, almost like a fountain you'd find in Italy or something in Rome with a little laptop, ATM 24 hours on it, and some palms for good measure. Money coming out of the fountain, 24 hours. It's almost as if this is an ATM, I guess, with the money coming out of it. Interesting. Available for 5 Tezos, edition of 5. 1 gone. Mika Oladev with another interesting variation here on the bust of kind of humanoid figure here. That is on X. And then we have Louis with an interesting GLB here. And we have a few GLBs today, which, of course, kind of these virtual sculptures, right? Floating through life together. This is edition of 1 for 65 Tezos here. And interesting kind of abstract element there in between. So interesting sculpture here. And there on top is MD. So interesting piece here. Let's continue. We have Spiegel's Maskinen. And I think one of these sold for 0.05, I believe. Current price 0.05. So that is what it is at right now. And again, you can kind of zoom in here. This is on aka.art, which I don't know a ton about, but I think they're doing some sort of virtual sculpture exhibition, which is well timed with all of the Apple Vision Pro there. Kind of a retro computer. It's basically an office, hilariously. And here's Sabato, glitch photogrammetry from 3D model. Scanned in Northampton, Massachusetts. Object data bending, GLB compression glitches. Capybara was added to the post. So there's the capybara. And here you see what looks like 3D, a scanned 3D model somewhere in Massachusetts with a capybara, providing nice contrast, I might add, to this whole piece because it's not kind of glitched out in the same way. 3D. Very cool. Current price 0.1 ETH, which again is nothing. That's no small amount now. That's $280 US. Like nice take. And here's Zed. Kind of playing with the 3D thing. Interesting piece here from XED, which playing with this USB stick here with a little bit of ASCII. Kind of interesting combination and cool colors. As we go into the AI finally, another massively long episode here, dancing, and I didn't open 50 tabs, if you can believe that, 50 bookmarks, which I basically said, we'll open this on Monday. So dancing horses, this is Islay. Look at how great this looks. So using M props, look at these colors. Beautiful colors, some interesting brush marks underneath, and just interesting portrayals. So again, doing the horse theme that we were seeing. Here's another disappearing horse with a lion. Again, M props there's something about M props that is quite beautiful in its textures and its lines. There's something quite persuasive about it. Created August 2023. Interestingly, M props Open Studio. Interesting. So maybe just releasing it because of the horse thing. Because of the horse, for lack of a better term, festival. Lavender horse, here's circles. So playing with different shapes, but the color again, just awesome here. And then again, the outline of a horse, just beautiful AI, super interesting AI artwork. I found this one by Lily Illo super interesting as well. Maybe we can zoom in. This part here kind of screamed at me. This painterly texture here with this kind of, for lack of a better term, deconstructed chair here, or, let's just call it that for right now, this impression, this AI impression of a chair, this geometric impression of a chair here. And then I just thought this was awesome for whatever, it just added this sense of just another interesting poetic element here, almost the paint, referencing almost like the painterliness of this whole situation. Very interesting. You kind of see it. I see it on this other screen here, a little darker around the edges too, just very interesting and beautiful. Unknown Collector posted this. This is Intro Void. I thought this was pretty cool. I didn't see where it was from, but again, combining, I think, AI and digital painting here. So interesting piece there. Complex work. Here's Venta times AI, two trees. They could easily hang in the same room there. And here's a really cool landscape here with some beautiful trees. Let's see what happens when we zoom in. Look at how big this is. And you see up close everything that's going on with these kind of skull figures. Again, AI artwork here as we're on the beach looking over with kind of a stormy sea in the background there as we continue to sail forward here. So this is an edition of 10 for 5 Tezos as we almost finish our marathon here. Here's Ocote with just a GM. I think this is AI. Kind of a bit more of a psychedelic kind of feel to this one. Of course, we remember from the Global South series here. So interesting, almost like techno shamanism type kind of feel to it here. Interesting, almost blacklight colors. Interesting palette there. Here's Santiago with some interesting experiments. Lonewick, if you've missed Santiago's latest works, do yourself a favor and check them out. He's made yet another beautiful turn in his evolution. So this is on Zora, looking like AI kind of mixing with Santiago's works. I could see this just being, take a Santiago, take some other art piece like a Mondrian, smash it together, hit blend, and you're going to start getting wild sort of stuff like this. Nice output from Santiago there, courtesy of Lonewick. Here's Anna Dart, who continues to release work, which is awesome. No Sun, No Name. Again, playing with these kind of brush strokes over portraits here, playing with space a little bit, and just kind of a cool AI art series. And this is not listed yet. Here's another one, No Sun, No Name, number 41. This is a PNG using GAN. And again, kind of AI artwork here. Pretty cool. Pretty cool combination of shape, color, and form. And here's No Hygiene. Another experimental work. We were discussing these kind of pixels here. I actually kind of like them. If No Hygiene, if you're watching this far, I don't mind these outlines at all. interestingly. Because I think No Hygiene was mentioning in a comment earlier that maybe was trying to get rid, but maybe is embracing them here. Interesting. So virtual, again, playing with the experimental AI artwork there. And here's MCHX. Also, this is an AI artwork, I believe. So interesting kind of a light source over here with this gradient here. And then here, a wonderful treat for those that stayed this long on the show. Look at how beautiful this work is by Nugget Brain. A dash of wax, pastels, and you see this, what looks like a really cool, like Akai, maybe massive sampler here. And then you have these TVs. This is painted, or sorry, wax pastels. I mean, this is awesome. Little UFO painting. And then you get these cool kind of retro TV screens. I adore this work. Another work you could have started with. Here's some other psychological evaluation. Just another amazing artist here, just like Streetcar. Here is, what is the name? Clippy. It's Clippy. So interesting, isn't it? Imagery we've seen, remember Ugo doing Clippy? I call it the new humor. Like there you don't see it, but there's a new humor that's out on, that you see in a lot of contemporary painting. And I'd argue that Clippy kind of is on the edge of that new humor. You see it with Machine. We'll see it more. We'll go more in depth on what's going on with what I'm calling the new humor. It's not gallery priest. I think this is a painting. Believe it or not. Look at on the edge here. You see, if you look really close, you see a shadow. This is a painting. As far as I understand, this looks like Doom with like a fire hydrant here. So like a screenshot of Doom with Priest with this artist, I guess, Priest Corp, doing the graffiti on this work. And I think this is painted. I mean, if we can believe that. I mean, let's just very quickly, we've taken forever already with this show. So not sure exactly what's going on because I don't see other pixelated work like that. But what a work. If this is painted, what a work, and how on earth did you do that? So just super interesting from Priest, courtesy of It's Not Gallery. Abelberger, more horses, unrelated to the horse trading that we were seeing earlier. Abelberger, Wind Was Pushing the Flowers. This is work on paper and wood, 70 by 50 centimeters. I particularly love this one, is what she says here, and I agree. This one worked really, really nicely. Sometimes when you're working in these kind of beautiful multimedia styles, sometimes you just nail it. And this one, Abelberger just nailed. Look at how great the texture is there, just putting in some paint. Really, 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 really nice process. Just, again, precious feeling work. And interesting, kind of the new humor. A bat, right? The outrageousness of putting a bat, and then you have some sort of clock. Larissa Laban, Hora de Attendre, 90 by 100, oil and acrylic on canvas. So again, looking like that spray paint that we see. And here, Christophe Florin, who I'd never seen before, preparing for our upcoming show in Paris. And here you see all sorts of interesting, here you see the kitchen is in the painting, the kitchen tiling, and then you have all this kind of phone iconography here with the battery, or the X being like Windows or operating system iconography. Even here, kind of a eraser, that's a digital eraser. Interesting piece, the Pepsi being kind of turned into Spirit with a rose. Lots going on in that work there. Stephen Wilson's studio. I thought this was just really interestingly treated, created by printing onto acetate and pressing onto paper. Almost has a Warhol feeling to it, but not. So very interesting process here and results. And finally, Riveltsev, just pushing our limits here. We have kind of this phone with a shape behind and kind of looking like a figure with some shapes on top. Call me anytime. 555-2368. So very interesting there. And that is your show, my friends. Thank you for joining me on this. Have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend. And until next time, thanks for everything and take care.